Welcome back to the Mail Playbook, guys. Today, we're going deep on something that's practically, etched in stone in the man code. Conflict of interest.
You got that right. We ain't just talking about some boring boardroom drama either. This is everywhere, man. Like literally every part of your life.
It's like that force field you can't see, messing with every choice you make. Picking a movie with your girl or trying to haggle down the price of some beat-up used car. Heck, even international politics runs on this stuff.
You know it. And what's at the core of it? Competing interests. What each person wants, what they're trying to get out of a situation.
Okay, so for the guys tuning in, break it down. What exactly do we mean when we say conflict of interest?
Simple. It's when you've got two or more sides with goals that are basically at odds, right? Someone's going to end up on the losing end.
So it's like a tug of war.
Exactly, like a tug of war where someone's going to face plant right in the mud. Think of it this way. You want to see the new Michael Bay flick and your girl's all about some cheesy rom-com. Boom. Conflict of interest.
Man, I feel that. And it's not always picking a movie, though, right? Sometimes this stuff can get pretty serious.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking relationships, your finances, even like global power struggles are loaded with this.
So how do we avoid getting played? What's the first thing every guy should know going into this?
First rule of the game, hidden agendas, they're everywhere, man. Like most people don't play with their cards face up.
Yeah, it's like buying a used car, right? The seller conveniently forgets to mention that fender bender that pretty much wrecked the whole passenger side.
Bingo. He's trying to get top dollar even if it means bending the truth a little. And the buyer, they might lowball you even if they love the car. Trying to act cool,
It's a power struggle. Everyone wants the upper hand.
No doubt. It's about who can use information to their advantage. But we're talking way bigger than used cars, man. Remember back in 2014, the whole Russia-Crimea situation?
Yeah, that was wild.
On the surface, Russia was all about protecting ethnic Russians or whatever, but let's be real, there was something else going on.
You think they had ulterior motives?
Experts say it was all about the Sevastopol naval base. That was the real prize. Talk about strategic advantage in the Black Sea, pure power move.
So what you're saying is we got to look beyond the surface, like there's a hidden meaning behind everything.
You got it, like in The Usual Suspects, right. Kaiser Soze, he was hiding in plain sight. People, countries, they all have their angles. Don't take things at face value.
So how do we spot these hidden agendas, before we step on a landmine? Give us the intel.
Keep an eye out for inconsistencies, for starters. Is the story changing? Are they pushing way too hard to make a deal fast? Red flag, man.
Yeah, like that used car salesman who's just a little too eager to give you a deal. What about the way people talk? Any telltale signs in their language?
Oh, tons. Deflection, blame-shifting classic signs someone's trying to avoid the truth. If they're always pointing fingers or dodging responsibility, that's a major red flag.
This is starting to make me feel like I need a tinfoil hat, man.
Hey, relax. It's not about paranoia. It's about being informed. Knowledge is power, right?
Right, so how do we use this in, say, relationships? It feels like that's where this conflict of interest stuff gets really intense.
Dude, relationships are a minefield. You and your partner might be totally different when it comes to money, how to raise kids, even just how to spend your free time.
And then there's the big one, divorce.
Yeah, divorce is like DEFCON 1, conflict-wise. Suddenly you're battling over assets, custody. It gets ugly.
So how do we avoid those explosions? Or at least, minimize the damage?
Pay attention to the early signs, man. Are you and your girl really on the same page, or are your values just lining up right now out of convenience?
That makes sense. But sometimes it's hard to see those red flags when you're, caught up in the moment.
Tell me about it. That's why getting this whole conflict of interest thing is like a superpower. You can analyze situations, see the traps before you fall into them, make way smarter decisions.
Like having a cheat sheet for life.
Exactly. All right, so we've got to accept that everyone's got an angle, right? Doesn't make them a bad person. It's just human nature.
True. But we've got to know how the game works so we don't get played. Remember that Roman saying? He did it, who benefits, figure out who's winning, and everything becomes a lot clearer.
Dude, you're getting it.
Yeah.
It's all about recognizing those patterns, like learning to read the matrix.
So, fellas, we're starting to see why this conflict of interest thing is basically a secret weapon. It's like knowing the rules of the game.
And once you know the rules, you can play to win.
So true. But we're just getting started. We'll be going deeper into specific situations and strategies in Part 2. We're going to look at how to see conflicts coming, negotiate like a pro, and protect your interests.
We're going to give you the tools to handle those sticky situations and come out on top.
So stay tuned, guys. This is where it gets really good.
It's about to get real. It's funny, we always think about conflict of interest like it's some big dramatic thing, like
Right.
something right out of House of Cards
Yeah,
with backstabbing politicians and shady deals and all that.
totally.
But it's not always that obvious, is it?
No, not at all. It can be way more subtle, like those everyday situations that kind of catch you off guard.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I've seen it with friend groups, family gatherings, even just trying to pick a place to eat can become a whole conflict of interest negotiation.
Dude, you're telling me. That's why understanding this concept is so important, Helps you make sense of those little things.
Right.
Helps you navigate those awkward moments.
Okay, so we talked about the big picture, but let's get into the details. Give us some examples of how this stuff creeps into our lives.
Right.
Those situations where we're like, wait, what just happened?
All right, picture this. Your buddy asks you for a loan.
Oh, yeah.
You want to be a good friend, help him out, but you've got your own bills to pay, your own financial goals.
Loaning money to friends, that's always a risky move.
It is.
What are some red flags we should watch out for?
First off, check his track record. Has he borrowed money from you before?
Yeah.
Did he pay you back? No problem. If not, that's a yellow light right there.
Proceed with caution.
Exactly. And think about why he needs the money. Is it a real emergency, or is he trying to buy, the latest pair of Jordans or something?
You got to draw a line,
Yeah.
Be smart about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes helping a friend means saying no.
Tough love, man.
Tough luck.
Sometimes the best way to help is advice, not a loan.
Right.
Okay, another scenario. You're at work, right?
Okay.
You're in a position to choose who gets a contract, and one of the vendors is your buddy.
Whoa, that's a sticky situation.
It is, right? On the one hand, you want to see your friend get the gig, but you got to be impartial.
Yeah.
Got to choose the best option for the company.
So how do you play that? Do you step aside? Let someone else handle it.
Just be transparent.
Yeah.
Talk to your boss, lay it all out. Hey, this is my friend. I might be biased.
Yeah.
That way everyone's aware and you're protecting yourself and the company.
And your reputation.
Exactly. No one wants to be known as Mr. Favoritism.
Right.
It's about doing the right thing, even if it's tough.
For sure.
Going back to those used car examples, it feels like this conflict of interest stuff often comes down to information, right?
Yeah.
One person knows all the facts and the other guy's in the dark.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Hmm.
That's why you got to do your research, ask the right questions.
Yeah,
Be skeptical, especially if something sounds too good to be true.
exactly. Don't just take their word for it. Get a second opinion,
Right.
Have a mechanic check the car. Information is power in this game.
So we talked about how conflict of interest can be a negative thing, but can it ever be a good thing?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes conflict pushes people to improve, Think about two companies fighting for the same contract.
Right.
They're going to bring their A game, try to outdo each other.
So competition can breed innovation.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's trying to create the best product, offer the best service. Everyone benefits from that.
Exactly. It's like that saying, iron sharpens iron. Conflict, when handled right, can push us forward, but you got to be smart about it.
Right.
Recognize those potential problems.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Conflict of interest, what it is, how to spot it,
Yeah.
all those everyday situations where it pops up. What's the main thing you want guys to remember?
Awareness, man. Once you realize that conflict of interest is everywhere, you start to see things differently.
Right.
You're more aware, more careful, less likely to get taken advantage of.
It's like that spidey sense,
Yeah.
You can sense when something's off.
You see through the BS and you understand what's really happening.
Yeah.
So let's take this a step further. We talked about recognizing conflict, but what about actually dealing with it when it blows up?
Right. How do we handle those situations? How do we navigate those minefields?
All right, let's break it down. There's no magic formula, It depends.
Sure.
It all depends on the situation, the people involved. But there are some basic principles that can help.
Okay, so give us those principles. What's the first move?
First things first, acknowledge the conflict.
Okay.
Don't ignore it.
Right.
Don't pretend it's not there. Be upfront about
So
it.
transparency is key. No hiding, no playing games.
You got it. Talk to the other person. Let them know where you're coming from. It shows you're being honest and you want to do the right thing.
All right, so you've acknowledged the conflict. You've laid it all out. What's the next play?
Take a step back. Look at the situation. Is this a small thing that you can easily work out?
Right.
Or is it something bigger, more serious?
Prioritize.
Exactly.
Figure out which battles are worth fighting.
Right on. If it's a major conflict, you might need to bring in someone else
Yeah,
Like a mediator, someone neutral who can help you sort things out.
right. Like in that vendor situation we talked about, if you can't be objective, tap out.
Yeah.
Let someone else handle it.
Sometimes knowing when to walk away is the smartest move.
So you've acknowledged the conflict, you've
Yeah.
assessed the damage. Now what?
This is where communication comes in, man. Talk it out, be honest, really listen to what the other person has to say.
That's easier said than done.
Oh, for sure, it can get tense.
Yeah,
But remember, the goal isn't to win the argument.
right.
It's to find a solution that works for both of you.
So even if you don't agree, you've got to find some common ground.
Exactly. And often, that means compromise.
Yeah.
You might not get everything you want, but you can reach an agreement that everyone's okay with.
Okay, so we've got acknowledging the conflict, assessing it, communicating openly. What's the last piece of the puzzle?
Document everything. This is crucial, especially at work.
Yeah.
But even with personal conflicts, it's good to have a record.
Like a paper trail, just in case things go bad.
Exactly. Write down the details, how you tried to fix it, what happened in the end. It protects you later on and keeps everyone honest.
Like having game film,
Yeah,
so you can go back and see what went down.
you got it. And that can be super helpful if there are any disagreements later on.
All right, so we've covered a lot today on conflict of interest. We went from the basics to real-world scenarios, even some strategies for those tricky situations.
We did.
What's the main thing you want guys to take away from all this?
I think the main point is conflict is a part of life.
Yeah,
You can't avoid it.
it's gonna happen.
It is. But understanding it, recognizing the signs, having the tools to handle those situations, that's what gives you an advantage.
That's what helps you make better decisions, build stronger relationships, achieve your goals.
Exactly.
So stay sharp, fellas. Keep learning, keep growing. Remember, knowledge is power.
And knowing how to play the game, well, that changes everything.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Male Playbook. We've been breaking down this whole conflict of interest thing, and now, it's time to get down to brass tacks.
Time to put all this knowledge to work, right?
Right.
We've laid the foundation. Now let's see how it applies to those situations that really hit home.
And what better place to start than relationships? I mean, that's where things can go from 0 to 60 in a heartbeat.
Oh, no doubt. Relationships are all about trust, shared goals, all that. But let's be real. Those goals, they can change like the wind.
Yeah, it's like, at first, everything's smooth sailing, you're both head over heels, but then life happens, priorities change, and suddenly you're at each other's throats about money or how to raise the kids.
It's true. Those small disagreements, they can turn into huge blowouts if you don't handle them the right way.
So let's talk about money. That's got to be one of the biggest stress points in any relationship.
Oh, without a doubt. Different spending habits, different goals for the future. That's a recipe for disaster if you're not on the same page.
It's like you've got one guy who's a total saver, stashing away every penny, and the other guy's living for the moment. Add in some debt, different incomes, and things can get explosive.
And that's where knowing about conflict of interest comes in. It's about understanding that you both see things differently and then finding that middle ground.
So what's the answer? Just talking it out.
Communication is huge, man. Got to talk about your financial goals, what you're worried about, what you're both working towards. Be honest about your spending, and then, create a budget together that you can both actually stick to.
What if you just can't agree, though? Like, what if every conversation about money turns into a fight?
Sometimes you need a third party,
Hmm.
like a financial advisor or something. Someone who can give you an outside perspective and help you come up with a plan that works for both of you.
It's a couples therapy, but for your money.
Exactly. Someone to help you make those smart decisions as a team. All right, so we've tackled the money thing. Let's talk about another relationship minefield. Parenting.
Oh, man. Parenting. That's where things can get really intense.
Talk about conflicting interests. You've got one parent who's all about discipline and structure, and then you've got the other parent who's more relaxed, the let them learn from their mistakes type.
Finding that balance is like walking a tightrope.
It's about compromise, finding what works for both of you, and most importantly, what's best for the kids.
And what happens when you just can't see eye to eye?
Again, communication is key. Talk about what you believe in, what you expect from your kids, why certain things are so important to you.
And be open to hearing their side, even if you don't agree completely.
Exactly. It's not about being right. It's about finding a solution that works for the whole family. Remember, you're both on the same team, even if it doesn't always feel like it.
Okay, so we've covered some heavy stuff, guys. Relationship conflicts, financial battles, it can be a lot. But let's lighten things up a bit. What about those everyday conflicts of interest that we all deal with?
Oh, yeah. Those little things can drive you crazy.
Like figuring out where to go for dinner or what to watch on TV. It feels like every little decision has some level of conflict of interest.
You're right. And honestly, the key is to pick your battles. Not every disagreement needs to turn into a screaming match.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta let it go.
100%. Choose wisely. If it's not that important, don't stress about it.
But if it is important,
Then go back to what we talked about. Acknowledge the conflict, communicate clearly, and try to find a solution that you're both happy with.
compromise, right? You're not always gonna get your way.
Exactly. It's give and take. And sometimes the best answer is just to agree to disagree, you know?
All right, guys, so that wraps up our deep dive on conflict of interest. We covered it all, from personal stuff to work situations, from those everyday annoyances to the choices that can change your life.
We did.
So what's the big takeaway?
Conflict happens. There's no way around it. But understanding it, recognizing the signs, and having the tools to deal with it, that's what gives you a real advantage.
And that's how you make smarter choices, build stronger relationships, and actually get what you want out of life.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So stay sharp out there, fellas. Keep learning, keep growing. And remember, knowledge is power.
And once you know how to play the game, well, that's when everything changes.
Until next time, guys,
Yeah.
keep it real.